I do love myself a good Twitter feed. I love it myself a good hot take, a good topic, if you will. And I don't know how hot of a take this is, but it's certainly a point of contention when it comes to grading your comics, CGC. Some people are yay, some people are nay. Let's go find out where Mr. Pat here is. He says, what is the appeal of slabs in the world of comic book collecting? Well, I can tell you, but I'll answer that after I read the rest. I want to look at the comic, read it, smell the paper. Sealing a comic in a plastic coffin, wrong term to use, seems like you'll never enjoy what's inside the comic. To each their own, I guess. Well, let me tell you the way it works. You have, say, a comic book that's worth thousands of dollars. Maybe you got a giant size X Men. Maybe it's a Hulk 181. Maybe it's an Amazing Fantasy 15. Whatever the case may be. Raw dog and loose subjects your valuable investment, because when we're talking books worthy of grading, these aren't reader copies. This isn't something that you find kicking around the dollar bin. Okay, we're talking about high priced, valuable comics that you put into a plastic case. It's not a coffin, it's a protective case. And the reason why you do it is just that, to preserve and protect your very expensive comic book investment. Okay. That's one reason to do it. It gets sealed in mylar, which is good for many, many years. Put in that plastic case, and no matter how much you drop it or bang it around, until that case cracks open, that comic book is protected. Now, what's the benefits of that versus the cons? Well, the con is you can't read it. Well, I mean, you shouldn't be reading your $1,000 worth of comic book investments um, repeatedly anyway. If it's a book worthy of CGC, chances are, there's an online copy that you can read. There's reprints that you can read, probably reprinted in a trade paperback or an omnibus somewhere. But don't ruin your very expensive comic book just because you think you're some sort of comic book purist. Okay. Um, the other reason why you would CGC is to sell it, right? So let's say I go ahead and I list up, one of my rarer Niobes, and I say I give it a grade of a 9.8. But there is no objective or neutral view on what that grade is. That just comes down to my subjective opinion on what I think a grade of the comic book is. With CGC, you have at least three different graders all given a grade, and then the grade becomes the average, okay? By professional graders who know what they're doing. So basically, what happens is when you go buy a comic book on eBay and it's raw, other than the photos, and photos too can be manipulated and misleading, you really don't know what you're going to get. When it's in a slab and there's a guaranteed grade on the book from CGC, that's why they call it the certified graded company. There is, that objective look that yes, you really are getting what you've been promised. This is a 9.8. Congratulations. The third reason why people would do it though is because they look really nice on display. Okay. I got a few comic books that have been graded for all the reasons above, whether it's to protect my investment, whether it's to sell it down the road, or or if it's just to, have something nice to look at. It looks great in a case, it's got a nice shine, it presents really well, and it gets people talking. People like things that are encased. I know it's hard to believe, right? But I get what he's saying. Like, you want to read comic books, and that's fine. Go ahead and read all the comic books you want. But if you want to protect your valuable comic books for resale down the road, then grading 100% is the way to go and do that. It's universal, it's trusted, people respect it, and you will triple your money on your books. Like, it's just that simple. So let's go ahead and read some of the comments in here. We'll respond to any that's worthy. Larry King, man, I thought he was on CNN. I find him to be an affront. I see one slab and I think it should be popped open. Absolutely. Well, you go ahead and fuck up your that shit. Too many collectors view comic books as an investment rather than a hobby. Um, This is again that sort of binary thinking. Why can't it be both? You know, why can't you enjoy collecting comic books but at the same time use them for investment? You know, get your enjoyment out of them and then sell them. You know, it's not like we're going to be buried with these things. It's not like, you know, I'm going to be put in a tomb with 15 long boxes around me. They're eventually going to go to other people, whether I hand them down to my nephews or whether I sell them on eBay. One way or the other, when I die, they become property of someone else. You know, you don't actually own property. You get to borrow it for a while, and then when you're off this earth, it goes flies to someone else's hands, and you have no control over that once you're dead. While I like my few slabs, what you say is true. Comics have become popular because they were inexpensive compared to alternate forms of entertainment. Now they're so expensive, the slab collectors market has also contributed. Look, you can still go buy cheap comics. Fuck, you can get cheap comics anywhere. Look, you go to my local comic book shop here in Canada. They got, dollar bins that are stacked to the gills. Other places they sell quarter comics, 50-cent comics, man. If you just want to enjoy the reading of comic books without spending a fortune, you can definitely still do that. But if you're looking to get comic books that are worth any money, you know, that's a little bit of a different story. We have Geek to Me Radio. He says, I only do slabs if I am. Personally, having them signed by the writer, artist, inker, mainly as a means of authenticating the signatures. Plus, I generally have duplicates of the comic for purposes of reading and enjoying. Many people do. Look, the thing about signatures is PGX and CBCS will do verified signatures, meaning like they'll verify the signature themselves. CGC will not. You have to have a witness, a CGC witness, seeing the artist or writer in question signing the comic book with their very own eyes. Other than that, the only way it can be done is if, like, I, as a writer, have a CGC account and I send them in my books and they know they come directly from me. I sign them. They will then go ahead and put the yellow label on, indicating that it is indeed legit and it is part of the signature series. David Hill says it protects from damage and looks nice on the wall. J-Tune says, enjoy the best of both worlds. There's someone who makes sense. All my slab books I have in non-slab form so I can flip through them, smell that gorgeous smell, etc. if needed. The slab is merely protecting the issues I consider high watermarks in the business. They function almost like a touchstone. Oh, he's got a lot to say here. Let's see what else he says. I hold them in my hands. I think about the history of the efforts of the many people and machines that it took, excuse me, to get them where they are. And that inspires me to want to create something so good in the future a comic fan might want to do that for my work. I got the complete run of the Ditko and Blue Beetle slab, a rare 3D substance number 2, got Captain Universe number 9, Speedball number 1. No one gives a fuck about Speedball. But Speedball, I guess, worth something now? It used to be in the dollar bins for eons, for years, John, years. None of the above would be considered high dollar books, but having them encapsulated is just preserving them so I don't need to be so precious with my reading copies. Good point. Let's see here. John's Longbox says, I agree 100%. People who sell comics are not comic book fans. That's wrong. I think that's up to the buyer, says Chris. It is an actual financial investment, not judging the soundness of the investment. I get that. But if I had an Action Comics number 1 or Amazing Fantasy 15, I would get that slab. I'm not getting a recent number 1 issue slab. No, because they're junk. They're never going to be worth any money. It costs, like if you're in the States, it's a little bit cheaper. But for me in Canada, it is $40 Canadian to go ahead and get a book slab. So your book better be at least worth $40, or quite honestly, you're wasting your time. The publishers have fostered and encouraged a mentality of placing high value on collectability. It's been like that for years, boys. Everyone's still chasing the idea that any issue with the first appearance or event is going to be the next Action Comics number 1. It's a sham, but one that props up Western comics, sadly. No one thinks that. No one thinks that if you go buy the first appearance of Riri Williams, that is going to be the next Action number 1. We're smarter than that, but you don't give the human race enough credit here, okay? We all know the endless reboots. We all know the endless parade of characters that are ripping off, their predecessors. Okay, we know there's 1,500 Spider-Man. We know there's a dozen Iron Man. Like, none of that matters anymore. The reason why these comics like Action and Amazing and whatnot are popular is because they're old. Okay, they're old, they're out of print, and finding pristine copies of these things get harder and harder every day. Miracle Man says, I never understood it myself. A comic can be held, read, and enjoyed. A slab isn't a comic, it's a thing. Sure, it might be pretty to look at, and it is. But ultimately, it has stopped being a comic and becomes a paperweight. Not to slight the people who enjoy them, but it's not for me. It is, again, once again, protecting your investment, okay, guys? Like, you don't understand. You know, if you had, like, a Wayne Gretzky, you know, rookie card, are you not going to put that in a plastic sleeve? Are you not going to encase that so that the corners don't get bent, it doesn't get wet? Or are you just going to thumbtack it to your wall like an idiot? Like, I just don't get it. The Ugly Otter says, it is pretty depressing. If I had any money, I would buy some and open them up in front of the camera to let them breathe. Also, not even to get into how the CGC rating system is an absolute scam. Jimmy Palminati, who wrote some Harley Quinn, so he's a professional here. Let's see what he says. He says it's really simple. For a collector, it's a way of trading a book with a guaranteed assessment of that condition. Great. He said it a lot better than I said it at the beginning of the video, but that is exactly what it is. As well, for someone like me that has read a book or had it for years, it's a way to keep it protected and stored, and for others, a fun game. 100%. We're gonna retweet that one. Jess Smith says, the Comic Hunter. Now, this guy here, he's kind of local to me. He says, I agree. Once you slab a comic's more like a Franklin Mint collectible. My only exception is you happen to get a really expensive comic slab. It does make a lot safer to let people handle it. So there's lots of different takes here. Burn Factory. If you buy 2 copies, one for collection, the other one for the coffee table. you know, uh, Alexa Rose says, as I get older, I can see taking a second copy of a comic I have or a signed copy of a comic I have being slabbed. But yeah, I have to read them. It is just something about using the comic for the purpose it was created. Look, the majority of comic books you read, you're probably only ever going to read once or twice anyway. I have 15 long boxes of comic books. I probably read about 80% of them. There is a pile of comics that I want to get to reading. But, very rarely am I going back and rereading something that I bought in 8 years ago. It happens once in a blue moon, but it's rare. It's very rare. It's not the norm. Woko says, comic collecting is a broad hobby. I love Raws and CGC slabs myself. I bought an Avengers #1 in 1991 that had been trimmed and not disclosed. Bought a CGC 7.0 in 2007. It was a much better value by comparison. That is one appeal for a quote-unquote coffin. Easy to own, a cheap reprint to read. Yeah, see, here's the thing. CGC will look and make sure that your comic book hasn't been altered. They'll make sure it hasn't been restored, that there isn't any color touch-ups or someone didn't put new staples in. We've seen reports of people like, having like a coverless comic and then adding the cover to it. That is all alteration, okay? So CGC will look for stuff like that. And we'll read one more. I hate them. It's a scam to get hundreds of dollars from collectors to artificially inflate the value of a comic book. Terrible. Just terrible. Jared says, I agree, but conservation does have its place. Always hated this. The probably of a biggest indication of more Gen X than millennial. No, it's more millennial and Gen X. Yeah, no, you know what? I disagree. Yeah, I agree. It is more Gen X than millennial. Millennials like to read manga. They don't care about collecting and investment of their comic books. They don't see their literature in that light. They should, but they don't. It's cool for a few investments, but the rest I don't even bag. See, man, that's almost sacrilegious to me. With a slab card, you can still see the whole card. With a slab comic, you have a cover, and it's also protected. Couldn't agree more. I said I was only going to read one more, but apparently I'm reading a few. These, the same goes for Major League Baseball or MOC collectibles. I want to take them out and play. How old are you? Seal comics are not comics per se. They're religious artifacts, and you spelled artifacts wrong. Rick here says, my Batman Adventures 12, which is the first appearance of Harley Quinn, by the way, graded at 9.0 is something I'm glad is protected. I bought it originally when it first came out. So, let me know what you guys think. I'm a big fan of grading comics. It's not like I'm going to grade all 15 long boxes worth of comics in my collection, but I definitely do have some key issues and really hot variants that I feel that they need to be protected, you know. And I can tell you this, when I sell CGC comics on my Kickstarter, they're the first things that go. People do like them. People want to know that what they're buying is as promised. And again, ultimately, it's just fun to look at. It doesn't matter how you collect. And this was an old argument back in 2014 that people would have with each other, these comic book elitists. It doesn't matter how you collect, just as long as you enjoy the hobby of collecting. So let me know what you think about slab books down in the comments section below. Like and share the video. And also, keep your eyes out for Niobe Penguina, the new Kickstarter coming from me and Ben Dunn. Right around the corner, I would say in about 2 to 3 weeks from the time this video is posted, maybe sooner. Let me start dropping some ads for that real soon. So keep your eyes out, and we will talk to you real soon. Peace out.